Hello there, geographers. So, this is a quick podcast for you on some revision tips you can use for GCSE geography. So, in this session, we're going to look at what revision is, when you should start it, timing tips, so how often you should do it and for how long, some revision techniques and strategies you can use yourself, including the resources you have available, and some final tips towards your final exam. So, first of all, what is revision? Revision is all about revising something or revisiting something learned before to embed it in your long term memory. And the revision you complete can help you bring that back into your long term memory, remember things you might have forgot about, and be able to use specific facts when prompted. When should you start revision? The sooner the better, generally, is the rule of thumb. It's never too early. The more you can fit some revision in, even if it's only for 5 minutes, the better your outcomes will be over time. And essentially, remember, you've got a lot to learn, and that's why starting early is best. So you've got 8 to 10 GCSEs, you've got 10 to 15 or sometimes more exams, and you've got 2 years worth of work that you need to try and embed into your long-term memory. So start early, don't cram it all in. Revisit topics multiple times. Don't just choose your favorite topics. And avoid panic. Keep going over it. The more you go over it, the more you revisit it, the more it will embed into your memory. So, some general tips about revision for all topics and all subjects, really, here. First of all, complete all of your classwork and homework, and that will reduce the amount of time you need to revise for. Create a revision timetable and stick to it. This is a really important one. If you set aside, say, 3 days a week, where you know you're going to spend an hour of revision and you're going to split it between your subjects, if you stick to that, you will have done countless hours of revision over your 2 years at GCSE. When you get less homework, use that time to revise. Use the time wisely. Do bite-sized revision sessions. So don't sit for 3 or 4 hours doing revision of a certain thing. Do 25, 30 minutes revision episodes and then 10-minute breaks between your subjects or topics. Some subjects will take longer than others to revise, so prioritize your strengths and weaknesses. If you know, for example, you are very good at art and you don't need as much technique and revision in that, do less revision for art and do more revision for a subject that you know you are slightly weaker in, for example, English or maths or geography. Use 2 to 3 hours of your weekend to plan some revision time. So your weekend, obviously, you've got lots of time in there, and you may have commitments already where you go to rugby or dance class, whatever it might be, or drama classes during the weekend, but fit some hours of revision time into your weekend when you're not really doing very much so that you can benefit most from that time. And finally, really importantly, leave yourself some time in the evenings and weekends to relax, spend some time with friends, etc. Now, one big problem that always comes up is when you ask a student to revise, they will say, I'm reading my notes. Now, reading your notes can be useful for very short-term things from, let's say, last lesson, or to try and look up something. However, if you're reading your notes to revise, that's a big problem because you scientifically remember 10% of what you read. So if you spend months just reading something, actually you're only going to remember 10% of what you have read. And we want to maximize the amount that you are remembering. So some of the strategies going forward that I will show you in a few minutes are more important than just reading your notes. Now, if you think about the revision resources available to you for geography, there is masses of them, and these are only some. And I'm just going to run you through this list of the things you can actually access to help you revise. So you've got Seneca Learning, which is great for knowledge-based revision, and so is Quizlet. Getrevising.co.uk is a really good website for all subjects, and it will give you some specific revision resources. The Google Drive and the GCSE Learning Platform, specifically for geography in the GCSE revision folder, is extremely useful, and there are countless amounts of revision resources in there for you to use. YouTube, these GeogPods and other general videos on YouTube about your topics are really useful. Go on YouTube and search for them. There are loads there. Tutor to You is a really good website that focuses on giving you summaries of each of the topics and each of the lessons that you do, and that's really useful as well. Remember to keep up to date with the news. So, for example, BBC News or Sky News or any of the news apps, even Apple News, on your phone, they are really useful. That will help you link things together in terms of different topics. Revision guides, such as the one in the image on the bottom right here. These can be purchased from Amazon for around £7. They're really useful, specifically the exam practice workbook one that gets you to be able to answer questions with the information it gives you. So that is by the CGP group, and it's for the OCRB specification. Your knowledge and assessment booklets that you currently keep in school, but towards the end of year 11 you get to take home. These are really useful because these are all of your assessments from late year 9 onwards, and you can use these as a what went well, even better if, and therefore target your revision. Geography revision sessions, which we run after school, either once a fortnight or twice a fortnight. Check with your teacher, attend them. And there are tons of other resources online you can use as well. So they're just some of the revision resources you can access. Now, just quickly, I wanted to give you an idea of some of the types of revision techniques you can try out and decide whether they are for you or not. Everybody has a different learning brain, and therefore none of these will work for everyone. You have to pick out which ones work for you best. So the first thing is literally making notes on paper. So go through your exercise book, reduce what's in there, make summaries, keep notes brief, and don't copy out huge chunks. Now that's useful for someone who really finds writing things down really important to help them understand what they are revising. You also have your revision clocks, which there is a lovely example on the right here, which are really useful. You could make some new ones of these from memory only rather than copying out from notes. Mind maps and spider diagrams, like this one here for tectonics at GCSE. So mind maps are great because they help you condense down all of the material and help you link things together. So you might want a key question in the middle or just a topic. You can add the key piece of information around it, develop some of those points. You could add symbols and images, and you could use different color pens and highlighters to point out specific parts. Other types of revision techniques include revision cards. So these might be A5 or A6, and you could have, like in the image here, key questions on one side and then the answers on the other side with some diagrams. It's really useful. And the great thing with these is you can move them around, you can stick them around your bedroom, you can stick them in different places in your house. And every time you go there, you can look at the one that's on the wall to try and remember what it's about. Post-it notes are also really useful, and there's an example here on the right of someone who has made a Typhoon Haiyan post-it note page. And you can section specific things off with post-it notes really usefully, so you can write definitions on them, you can bullet point things, and these also can be moved around so that you can put them in places that you are going to look. And finally then, pictures, diagrams and memory anchors. These are a combination of keywords and numbers and pictures, etc. And for example, I've got just a diagram down here of a volcano that is a composite volcano, and it's fully labeled. And also there is a diagram here of caves, arches, stacks and stumps. And these types of diagrams and pictures do help you remember, and if you can remember what the picture looks like, you will more than likely be able to remember the processes and the steps that are involved in that specific bit of geography. Some more revision techniques might include flowcharts or timelines. For example, here is a timeline on the right of the periods in time on the world. And so we have current time period, which is the Pleistocene. That's broken down into two more. Currently, we're in the Holocene. So that is an example of how you could use a timeline. It's good for key dates, bits of information, processes and stages. Different colors are really useful to help them stand out. Exam practice questions are really important. These are the best things you can do. Even questions you've already answered previously in lessons. Do them again. Attempt them again without your notes. Do it with your notes to start with if you prefer. Get yourself confident with the way in which you're answering questions. Be able to answer them with nothing in front of you apart from the question. Think about the key words in the question. Think about bugging the question. So box the command word, underline the keywords, look at the grade, and glance back at the question again. Make notes about the question if you have no idea about how to answer it as well. And then finally, some general other techniques. You can make songs, poems, and raps. They are on YouTube. This is just a screenshot of one of the videos available on YouTube about the layers of the Earth. Mnemonics are devices that help you remember numbers and words. You could try them. You could do lots of quizzes, as I mentioned earlier. Question and answers. Read, cover up, say, write, and check. That's one strategy you could employ. Teach someone else. Get together with somebody else and revise together. Read, summarize, record, and listen back. You could make your own little podcast like these to listen back to. Color code large bits of text so that you are going through it and highlighting specific things. You could create Venn diagrams that link things together. For example, SEEP, social, economic, environmental, and political, is really good for that. And of course, use these GeogPods. There are lots of them. There are more and more being made all of the time. Keep checking them and use them. Listen to them as podcasts on the bus on the way to school, for example. And finally today, just some exam tips, particularly for mocks or the final exam, to make sure you get the best out of your revision. When you are revising, avoid all distractions. Set aside time without your phone, your Xbox, your PlayStation, the television, and so on, and just focus on what you set out to do. In the breaks, you should allocate yourself, move around, drink some water, get a cup of tea, eat something, whatever it is you want to do, use that 10 minutes wisely. Sleep well. Don't work too late at night. Get plenty of sleep and rest so that your brain is refreshed and able to take in more information. Wherever you revise, clear the space for it. A clear space is a clear mind. If you've got enough space to do your revision on, then your revision will more than likely go much better than if you try and do it in a very cramped space. Try to work at a desk or a table as best possible. That way, you're in the mindset that you are working rather than sitting on a bed or a sofa where you might drift off to do other things. Reward yourself at the end of every session. So if you aim to do 25 minutes of geography revision and you get it done, do spend 10 or 15 minutes rewarding yourself. Go and get something to eat. Go on your phone for 10 minutes, so on. And tell your parents or your family that you have revision plans and that you will be revising at this time so that they can either help you or avoid you if you prefer. So that was just a quick session for you on some exam tips and some revision tips. I hope you found it useful and I hope you try to experiment with the way in which you revise. And if you have any questions about revision or what to revise specifically or how to revise in further detail, please do ask your geography teacher. They will be more than happy to help.